Welcome to 2B2T No Life. 2B2T No Life is a video series where 2B2T content creators fight for the title of Biggest No Lifer through a series of games and death challenges. It's like Last Life, but with 2B2T players. The rules of the game are simple. Everyone gets 3 lives and must work together to acquire resources and secure a base. But on a player's last life, all alliances are cut off and they must kill, steal, and grief to make sure they don't lose. Think of it as Minecraft hardcore, but with 3 lives. Oh, and it all takes place in 2B2T spawn, except we've also loaded 1.18 chunks underneath it and set a world border of 1,000 blocks. Traversing the dangerous map will be a test that only the most experienced Anarchy players can overcome. Most people can't even escape spawn without dying. We'll have to live here. Each creator will have a different perspective leading up to the final showdown, so make sure to tune into them all so you don't miss a single beat. Special thanks to Turbin and Orson for getting the server plugins running, and to Bezopassin for bringing us all together. This is 2B2T No Life.
Last time on 2B2T No Life. Rockdrop gave me the coordinates to a chest of items that Syndicate had stashed away at the end of the previous episode, in hopes that I could make better use of it. Thanks, man. And so here we are again. So after that little debacle, you're all probably wondering what exactly went down just now. So the basic idea is Orson attempted to clear the glowing effect that we'd all been given last episode. However, instead of saying clear player effect, he did something to the effect of clear player, which literally wiped everybody's inventories. And so everything had to very quickly be put on pause. I, of course, gave screenshots of everything that I'd had, and Orson more or less replaced everything to a decent degree as to what I had. But all in all, no harm, no foul. And he even ends up giving me a little something for my troubles. So, at the end of the day, I can't exactly complain, though it was funny to, But anyway, the next thing that happens, of course, is me sorting out all my shit, re-enchanting, getting geared up, reorganizing my inventory, better hiding my little hidey hole, sleeping to reset my insomnia meter because I was being bullied by phantoms earlier, and of course just general item management. I then decide that it'd be a good idea to, by this time, however, I make a few extra beds to, make up what I lost. By this time, I decide it's a good idea to try and team with Maxi Taxi, since at this point, he and I are the only two people with 2 lives left, and so I know, at least for now, I'm not likely to lose out if I go ahead and decide to team with him. So that's what I do. I burrow out of the underground here, get myself through a cave, make myself a little path through this lava, and it's just more of the same, really. Eventually, here shortly, I come out into a giant underground lake that I believe had been made quite a while ago. And I don't have Depth Strider, and so I'm thinking to myself, why not? I'm just going to make me a boat. That'll be the easiest way around, and yeah, sure enough it is. So I'm boating to where Maxi Taxi has based. I believe Maxi and Gojon were attacked last episode. Oh yeah, that reminds me. Speaking of, so as it turns out, so first of all, there was a resource pack installed that turned the moon red, blood moon like in Terraria. But as it turns out, a bunch of people didn't show up for this episode. Gojon apparently fell asleep, and Clown Pierce just never showed back up. He had the right to rejoin, but he just never did for whatever reason. I don't know what happened. So he's gone. Whatever threat he would have posed, we'll never know. Probably for the best, really. And then let's see here. Somebody else also didn't show up. I think it was just Gojon and Clown Pierce. I can't remember. So I, of course, oh yeah, that's right. I'm making for the place that Sirach dropped. Yeah, that was it. I wasn't going to Maxi Taxi yet. I was going to Sirach Drop's, the location that he gave me of Syndicate's items. I find it after a little bit of shuffling around, make myself a little hidey hole, and I decide this is where I'm going to put my second base. Syndicate had better shit than I did. Really, really glad to make an anvil, of course. Really, really glad that I got all this. And basically, I just sort of, wall up here. I decide to do a little bit of grinding. I'll try to get in contact with Maxi Taxi because he and I, we have the best chances together. And so, since it's perpetual night, we can sleep at any time. I'm paranoid because I want to keep, because I'm not sure quite how the system is keeping track of the insomnia meter, if it is at all. I really don't want to be bothered by phantoms, is basically what it boils down to. So Maxi and I talk. Eventually, he's like, you should go into the food dimension and get stuff. He wanted me to get leather, predominantly. And of course, I'm having to eat glowberries, so I'm like, yeah, the food dimension's not a bad place to stop by. And so I hunt all over this little area for a piece of gravel to get flint. Fuck me if it isn't like the most arduous task to find a simple piece of flint. But after a little bit of rounding here, there, and everywhere, I of course come up next to the border. The border has really shrunk the whole place at this point. Like, there's almost nowhere I can go in this area now without seeing the border. Like, I'm right on the corner at this point. Maxi Taxi's base is not too far from this area. And I believe I even tell him later on that, we can't afford to stay here beyond this episode because the border will encroach on where we were. So after quite a bit of finagling with this lone piece of gravel, I do finally get a flint drop here in a bit. And then I make my portal, and I'm off to the food dimension. I'm, of course, deathly paranoid of everything now, even more so than I was 2 episodes ago, because now everybody has the right to kill me. Fast Vincent is on 1 heart. R-Fresh is on 1 heart. And I believe Sleuthing is on 1 heart. They're the only other people here other than Maxi Taxi who are, actively participating. I just start tossing my gold here to all the piglins. There are like 5 or 6 of them here. They'll all pick up 1 ingot each and start bartering, and hopefully I'll get some leather that way. I get a few pieces, but it ultimately doesn't matter too much. More so, I'm after actually the hoglins for their food at this point. I'm trying to, of course, keep a close eye out as to who is around and all that. Prepared to bed bomb anyone or anything that comes near me, because just about everybody is an enemy at this point. And this is, oddly enough, a very, very uneventful little thing. I get a warning here from, not really a warning, but an observation from Bezopassin, who says, there are about 3 players in the same area who are completely unaware of one another. And I take that to mean me. I don't know that it was me. Obviously, I'll have to watch other people's perspectives to see if it was or not. But if there were other people nearby, that was a very, very tense and very close situation. So I vamoose out of the area, because the Nether is a much more open place. You can go farther away in the Nether than you can in the overworld. So I start trying to hunt around farther out. I start trying to get farther away from spawn. But I want to stay in the Crimson Forest, because that's the greatest chance for hoglins to spawn. And it's just in general, it's just a really cool looking landscape. I recently upped my memory allocated to Java. I just figured out that I could do that. And so the wider render distance with fog disabled is actually viable. Turns out I was just a dumbass and didn't know that. So I ended up, being able to take advantage of this much wider, opener, prettier render distance. Turns out there's also a Nether fortress that I'm not about to touch with a 10-foot pole, just lying right over there. If I'd had my wits about me, I probably would have dived in there after getting iron armor in episode 1 to maybe try to get a hold of a blaze rod or 2. I did later on find nether wart, obviously, so potions were entirely viable. Hell, they're probably even still viable even as late as next episode. I'm really not sure what to make of that, really. Like, forts can be really deadly, and especially with wither skeletons. So I'm really not sure anyone has bothered just due to fear. Because I swear to God, more people have died to PvE than PvP. I think we can literally name the people who've died to PvP on one hand. It may even be less than that. And, it's all PvE situations. Fast Vincent died fighting the hunters last week, but he died to fall damage. Goljon died to PvP, but it didn't matter because it didn't eliminate his lives. And then Bezo died to PvP. So, nobody's really in danger of killing each other like we seem to think. And so I'm here. I'm desperately trying to get out of the underground again. This time I'm really trying to meet up with Maxi Taxi because I got 9 pieces of leather. And he's like, okay, we'll just make it do with what we got. We'll just make some books. Because apparently Maxi Taxi found sugarcane. And I'm like, okay, well, that's really cool. What do we do? I really don't know that he found the sugarcane or not. But it's also not about to matter. Because I swear to God, every time I try to team up with somebody, or every time I start trying to make my way over to someone in a, tactically minded manner, they fall to their death. And as we're about to see, that's exactly what's about to happen to poor Maxi Taxi. He's about to lose his second life and go down to his last one. I believe a skeleton punts him into a hole, or maybe it was phantoms. That was it. Phantoms mobbed him. I even told him, because I was in a private voice chat with him at this time, I even told him, don't you have a backup bed? Don't you have a little hidey hole? And I was like, I have one, why don't you? And he's like, no, hell no, I'll get bed trapped. And I'm like, yeah, I suppose that's a possibility. But the penalization of losing your shit and being unable to get back to your stuff, which is exactly what happens to Maxi, he's now at spawn. And I have no idea where he is. And so I'm trying desperately to go back to where he was. And I think he's trying to get to where he was too. Ultimately, doesn't matter. He's not able to get back to it. His stuff ends up despawning, from what I understand. I think Bezo was in the area in ghost mode. And of course, in ghost mode, that still loads the area. You can still despawn someone's items even as a ghost. And so I make it back to my little area where I was. I rest up, consolidate my shit, and basically find out that there's no point. And so I'm just like, okay, well, where did Maxi die? Because he got some stuff on him, but he gets shot by a skeleton again here shortly. And that's the end of him. And so now there are only 4 people left. And so I'm like, well, I got to get his stuff, whatever he had. Maybe it's something, something's better than nothing. And so he sends me a screenshot of where he died, and I'm like, okay, is it over here? No, okay, here it is. And I hop into the little hole here and grab up his XP, and what little diamonds he had on him, it wasn't much. I guess 19 diamonds is better than nothing. I certainly would have loved to have had that, episode 1. But nowadays, it's a little less useful. So I end up going back to where Maxi was originally, because he'd set up a little skeleton grinder. And so I'm like, well, maybe I can make use of it. I don't know if he'd been growing the sugarcane or not, but I couldn't find any sugarcane. The whole thing was kind of just a wash. So I figured, whatever, it doesn't matter. Even if the leather itself is useless, I think I'm in a good enough spot. I've got full prot too. And a sharp 2 diamond sword. Like, I'm doing fine. From what I understand, refresh and sleuthing, and fast Vincent, are all just grinding to get better gear, because this is a very grindy episode. And if I recall, I think the death message flies by too quickly. Fast Vincent has also been eliminated, either at this point or a little bit ahead of now. I forget exactly when. Fast Vincent will get mugged by Enderman, and that'll be the end of him. Poor guy. And that's basically the end of most of my competition. It's just me sleuthing and refresh. And so they're both trying to get back up to, because I think refresh lost everything. I forget how. And sleuthing was never really in a good position to begin with. So I end up finding the little skeleton grinder Maxi made. I get into it, kind of loot it, look at it a little bit, decreeper it, Find some iron. I realize I want to make an anvil because there's a power 1 bow here. I definitely do get that power 1 bow and take it with me later. I'm kind of just disappointed that there's just nothing here. There really just is nothing here. There's literally 1 pork chop, which I needed it, but at the same time, ugh. And of course I can see down in the depths of the caves, I can see the world border off in the distance, and that just sends a shiver down my spine, like, fuck, everything is just so compact now. So I go caving for a little bit of iron, trying desperately to find just any scrapes or flecks of it I can get. I need iron because I left most of it back where I was. I wanted to make an anvil, another anvil. And it's at this time I realized that making another anvil is counter to my strategies. And so I better not, because I find a little vein of iron. So I'm like, I better not actually make another anvil. And so I'm like, okay, well, I got to get back to where I was in Maxi Taxi's area. And I swim through an aquifer, swim through underground area, trek through here, trek through there. It's just never ending. A little more iron for the road. And I'm like, okay, we got like 30 minutes by this point. I've got to really start hoofing it. Like, I've got to get out of this area. This is the exclusion zone. I cannot be here anymore. And so I'm just like, fuck it, I'm out. And I almost get washed into the world border by a water stream, and I don't have depth strike. So, that's actually deadly. I was like a block or 2 away from the world border. That sent my heart into my throat. And thankfully nothing bad happened. Though I could have seen that being a terrible situation in the making. Thankfully I got away in time. And so I dig my way back to where Maxi Taxi's base was. fall back down into the grinder, pick up the Power 1 bow, leave some more garbage behind, and I pretty well make my escape. There's really nothing more to say here. This is really just kind of like, I've got 15 minutes left at this point. Like, I'm eager to get the hell out of here. This place is cursed. Cursed as all fuck. And so I make it back to my hidey hole, which is thankfully outside the exclusion zone. It's pretty safe. The border will be going up to 600. 600 on all axes. And so again, I do the inventory shuffle, and I'm like, okay, I'm probably not going to be doing any more bed bombing. The beds and the fire resistance potions, I swear I've clung to these fire resistance potions pretty much the whole time, and I'm like, okay, this is really not doing anything for me. They're just taking up inventory slots. I want to move back to my other hidey hole, the one where Orson was giving me items. And so I'm like, okay, that's probably the best to do for now. And so I smelt up the remaining iron I have. I get all my items, and I'm just like, okay. And by this time, it's pretty well the end of the round. Like, it's time to call it here. And yeah, 27 diamonds and 2 sets of enchanted diamond armor with an enchantment table at my old place waiting for me. Really not a bad idea, honestly. Like, I'm doing pretty good. I swallow. This is like probably the only time I'll ever use a fire resistance potion. I just chug throw a fire pot on my face, and I just head on off into the sunset. And now I am back to fucking around in the overworld, and 8 o'clock hits, and that's it. Kicks us out, and that's the end of it. And so here we stand. Let's see now. Several people down. From what I've understood, Goljan will be allowed back for the next episode. Missing just one episode is not that big of a deal, but like, it's discouraged of you to not participate. So that happened, basically. Nothing more really interesting than that has occurred. We're just, I don't know, going toward a Mexican standoff at this point. I have no clue. I'm just going to make a new hidey hole and see what the next big obstacle to tackle is. It may be bad, it may not be, who knows. But either way, I will see you guys next time. Thank you all so much. Stick around for more. Bye.